2001, Texas actually led the way in allowing undocumented students to pay in-state tuition rates for college. At that time, the state law had strong support from conservative Texas leaders like Sid Miller, the current agriculture commissioner, and then Governor Rick Perry. But times and politics have changed. In June, a court decision effectively ended the policy as Attorney General Ken Paxton decided not to fight a federal government lawsuit over this issue. We spoke with Gaby Pacheco, president and CEO of the Dream.us, a nonprofit that advocates for dreamers. Gaby, first, let's get your reaction to this policy change. How will it impact students in Texas?
Well, we are very alarmed for what is happening. Texas was the first state that ever passed such legislation. It's been a beacon of hope, but also has been around since 2001. Thousands of young people have been able to afford a college education. And currently right now, we're talking about thousands of people who are in school and are worried about, will they be able to finish their education? At the Dream.us, we have close to 700 of those such students. And what we know is that these students have come to the US since they were little kids. The average age of arrival for our students was just 4. And their whole entire life, all they know is Texas. And all they want to do is to be able to give back. We know that majority of our students who are working, 94% of them after they graduate are working full time, have had are entrepreneurs or started a business, and that 64% of them 6 months after graduating are making more money than their parents combined. So we know the power of education. We know that this legislation has been beneficial to not just those individuals, but the state of Texas for over 2 decades. And it's just alarming of how quickly this happened and how there's young people right now with uncertainty.
And can you tell us why you think Texas was the one to lead the way in creating this helpful tuition discount for undocumented immigrants? It was a different time though then, right?
Very much different time, but very similar circumstances of what we're seeing in Texas. At that time, Governor Rick Perry in 2001 was actually really happy to pass this. And so in 2001, one of the things that Texas was seeing was a decline in young people graduating from high school, something that unfortunately we're seeing in Texas again. And so they wanted to be able to ensure that all young people had hope and desires to be able to continue moving forward. And college has always been a really critical piece. And so in 2001, with the help of many people in the community, they realized and said, if we have these young people going through our education system, K through 12, graduating from our high schools, it's only fair that they have a chance and an opportunity not to get free tuition, but rather be able to pay like their classmates that they're graduating with.
Now, what about the federal law that Paxton cites, making it illegal to give benefits to non-citizens that are not available to citizens?
Well, the thing is that one of the problems with that is that there's nothing that is being given to these students that are not being given to citizens. Reality is that if you have a student from Kansas or Oregon or other state come into the state of Texas, they have to wait a period, right? They do have to pay out of state tuition because they haven't been paying taxes in the state of Texas. What we're talking about is individuals and young people that, regardless of their immigration status, have been living in the state of Texas, contributing to the greatness of that state. And what it says is that this law requires for individuals to have done at least minimum 3 years of high school, graduated from high school, in order for them to be able to apply for this, right? And they do ask that the students sign an affidavit saying that they are going to, if they have a way to legalize their status, they'll be able to do it. So it is more of a political thing. We know that other cases have been brought up and have failed. And so it was to us very alarming and I think disingenuous, right, to say and cite a law that we all know that these young people, it's not about their residency, right? It's about their time and being able to meet certain standards. That is why they get the in-state tuition.
That June court decision has since been challenged. The Mexican-American Legal Defense and Educational Fund is one of several organizations fighting to undo the decision. We previously spoke with President and General Counsel Thomas Saenz. Let's talk about how the U.S. Department of Justice and the state of Texas apparently collaborated on this back in June. What concerns do you have about the way this was handled?
Well, we were talking about a 25-year-old law duly enacted by the state legislature and never repealed, that was gone in a matter of hours in one afternoon because the Department of Justice and the Texas Attorney General's office did collaborate, did collude to put forward a lawsuit, and then immediately a resolution of that lawsuit that would strike down that 25-year-old law. The problem with that is it does not give the public any opportunity to be heard or to put forward arguments to defend a 25-year-old law against an attack that was collusive between the state and the United States government.
So just to clarify, as I understand the legal process here, you are asking to be able to join a lawsuit that challenges the federal court decision made in June. How will that impact this case?
So we're asking to intervene in the lawsuit that was filed by the United States against the state of Texas, then resolved the same afternoon. We're asking to intervene so that we can file an appeal with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals to prevent that consent judgment from moving forward. First of all, because there was not adequate opportunity for the public to know about the proceedings and to participate in them. And second, because they're wrong on the law. The Texas law is perfectly legal, despite what Department of Justice and the State Attorney General here 25 years after it was enacted have all of a sudden decided.
So that being said, what's the core of your legal argument for restoring the Texas DREAM Act?
It simply is not a violation of the federal law cited by the federal government. That law, which has been on the books as long as, if not longer, than the Texas law, has always been there. For 25 years, a quarter century, no one has challenged successfully that law, and there is no basis for such a precipitous removal of the law as occurred here. There should be a deliberative process that involves public input, including through our interveners, Students for Affordable Tuition, so that the court can vet all of the legal contentions and determine whether, in fact, this law has been on the books for a quarter century, despite violating, in the view of the federal government and Attorney General Paxton, a law that predated the enactment of this in-state tuition bill.
What's the outlook then for the next legal steps to be taken?
Well, we are finishing the briefing of our motion to intervene. If it is granted, we will file an appeal with the Fifth Circuit, and then we will seek to prevent the consent judgment from moving forward while that appeal is resolved. If we are denied intervention, we will appeal the denial of intervention and seek to join with that, a challenge to the consent decree. So the next step is likely to be the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals one way or another.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment below to let us know your thoughts on this video. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Austin Insight for free in the PBS app.